Every day is a chance to rise higher, to feed your mind, and to shape the life you truly deserve. How to Educate Yourself Daily Full Audiobook by Jessica brings you 10 powerful chapters designed to help you grow smarter, stronger, and more disciplined. From learning before breakfast to challenging your comfort zones through discovery, this audiobook will ignite daily progress and lasting transformation. You're listening to Premium Audiobooks, your home for life-changing knowledge and personal mastery. Subscribe now and stay inspired with more empowering audiobooks that help you evolve, one lesson, one day, one decision at a time. Number 1. Learn something new before breakfast daily. There is a quiet power in beginning the day with learning. Before the noise of the world seeps in, before the demands of others start to pull your attention in every direction, there exists a sacred moment, early in the morning, when the mind is still clear and receptive. This time, when used wisely, becomes a foundation for personal growth and mastery. Learning something new before breakfast is not just a practice, it is a declaration that you value your own evolution above distraction, that your mind is a priority before the chaos begins. It is a discipline of self-respect, the kind that separates those who drift through life from those who deliberately shape it. The human mind is most open when it is rested. In those early moments, your thoughts are uncluttered, your emotions are calm, and your willpower is at its highest. What you choose to fill this mental space with matters deeply. Many people start their mornings scrolling through meaningless content, consuming fragments of information that do nothing but scatter focus. They wake up and hand their attention to the world, never realizing that attention is the most precious form of currency they possess. The disciplined individual, however, does the opposite. They guard their first hour as sacred. They understand that what enters their mind first sets the tone for everything that follows. Learning before breakfast is about more than reading a few pages or listening to a podcast. It is about priming your mind for excellence, setting a standard of discipline that ripples through every decision of the day. When you choose to learn first thing in the morning, you are sending a message to yourself that growth is your priority. That message shapes identity. Over time, this simple act transforms into a deep belief. You are someone who invests in your own mind, who refuses to coast on yesterday's knowledge. And belief, repeated through action, builds unshakable confidence. Imagine starting your day not by reacting to notifications, but by feeding your mind with something that challenges it. It might be a chapter from a timeless book, a short lecture on philosophy, or a quick study of a new skill. The key is not quantity, but consistency. 5 minutes of intentional learning is more valuable than an hour of distracted reading. Consistency compounds. A few minutes each morning may not seem like much, but over months and years, it becomes the foundation of mastery. Great minds are not formed through bursts of effort. They are built through steady, deliberate practice. The Stoics understood this principle well. They began their mornings with reflection, often reviewing key principles or studying the words of wise thinkers. Marcus Aurelius did not scroll through distractions. He wrote to himself, reinforcing discipline, humility, and purpose. To learn before breakfast is to live by that same philosophy. It is to ground yourself in thought before stepping into the unpredictable world. When you start your day grounded in learning, you carry wisdom into every conversation, decision, and challenge that follows. Practical application is the difference between knowledge and growth. Reading alone does not change you. Acting on what you learn does. That is why this practice must be intentional. Choose a small, clear goal each morning. One day it may be learning a new word and its history. Another day, it could be studying a single principle from a book on philosophy or leadership. Perhaps you watch a 5-minute documentary on how something works, or review a concept from a course you're taking. The subject does not matter as much as the discipline itself. What matters is that you engage your mind with purpose, curiosity, and focus. Create a space for learning that feels sacred and uncluttered. Maybe it is a corner by the window where you can read with a warm drink beside you. Maybe it's your desk with a notebook open, ready to capture insights. Avoid screens that invite distraction. Keep your phone in another room. The world can wait for you. Those few minutes belong to your growth alone. They are a form of mental training, strengthening your ability to focus, observe, and absorb. There is something profoundly empowering about starting your day with intention. While others rush into tasks or lose themselves in noise, you stand still and learn. That stillness gives you an edge. You begin to think more clearly. You speak more thoughtfully. You make choices with greater awareness. Knowledge transforms from something external into something living within you. This is how personal power grows, not from external success, but from inner cultivation. Over time, this daily act of learning begins to rewire the way you see yourself. You no longer identify as someone who consumes whatever the world gives you. You become an active participant in your own evolution. You begin to notice connections between ideas, to see patterns others miss. The world becomes your classroom. Every experience turns into a lesson. This mindset shift changes everything. It builds humility because you realize how much there is to learn, but it also builds confidence because you know you are growing daily. When you start your mornings this way, the quality of your thoughts changes. You stop reacting and start creating. You become less influenced by fear or doubt because knowledge strengthens your inner foundation. Learning is not just about gaining facts, it's about shaping perspective. Each new concept you absorb becomes a tool for navigating life with greater wisdom. And wisdom, unlike temporary motivation, stays with you even when things get difficult. There will be mornings when you don't feel like learning. The mind will resist, searching for excuses or comfort. This is when the practice matters most. Discipline means doing what strengthens you, not what feels easy. The act of opening a book, even for 5 minutes, becomes a quiet rebellion against mediocrity. It is in those moments of resistance that your character is forged. Over time, this ritual becomes automatic, something you do not question, like brushing your teeth or breathing. It becomes part of who you are. To deepen this practice, connect learning with reflection. After you read or study something, take a minute to write a single line about what it means to you. Ask yourself how it applies to your life today. The goal is not to memorize but to integrate. This reflection bridges the gap between theory and experience. It turns abstract knowledge into personal wisdom. A single well-applied insight can shift your entire mindset, far more than pages of forgotten words. This habit also shapes your emotional resilience. When you fill your mind with ideas that elevate and challenge you, your perspective on problems changes. You stop seeing obstacles as punishments and begin to view them as opportunities to apply what you've learned. Life becomes a training ground, not a series of random events. This is the essence of Stoic strength: responding with wisdom instead of emotion, growth instead of complaint. Learning something new before breakfast can also become a way of reconnecting with purpose. The world often pulls us into busyness and distraction, making us forget why we started in the first place. Learning grounds you. It reminds you that growth is a lifelong journey, that every day offers a chance to become better than you were yesterday. That sense of purpose fuels discipline. You begin to wake up with excitement, knowing that before the day even begins, you will already have grown. Start small. Choose one topic, one lesson, one insight each morning. Keep a small journal of what you've learned. Review it weekly. Over time, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. You will have accumulated not just information, but transformation. The person who begins each day by learning does not remain the same for long. Growth compounds quietly, invisibly, until one day it becomes undeniable. There is a profound satisfaction in knowing that before the world has even stirred, you have already taken a step toward mastery. You have fed your mind before feeding your body. You have chosen wisdom over distraction. This is how great days begin, anchored in learning, guided by purpose, driven by quiet discipline. The morning belongs to those who claim it. And when you use that time to learn, you are not just starting a day, you are shaping a life. Number 2. Replace idle scrolls with smart reads. Every day, millions of people wake up and reach for their phones before their feet even touch the floor. They scroll through endless feeds filled with fragments of other people's lives, opinions, and distractions. Minutes turn into hours, and before they realize it, their energy and focus have already been scattered across 100 meaningless updates. This modern habit, idle scrolling, has become one of the greatest thieves of time and attention. It promises entertainment, but delivers emptiness. It gives the illusion of connection, yet leaves the mind unfocused and unsatisfied. Replacing this habit with smart reading is not merely about consuming different information. It's about reclaiming control over your most valuable resource, your attention. The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life. What you feed your mind each day shapes how you think, how you feel, and how you act. When you spend your mornings or evenings scrolling through social media, you are feeding your mind junk food, short bursts of stimulation that satisfy a craving but provide no nourishment. Over time, this weakens focus, shortens attention span, and dulls curiosity. Smart reading, on the other hand, strengthens the mind. It introduces structure, depth, and meaning. Each sentence read with intention becomes a small step toward clarity and self-mastery. To replace idle scrolling, one must first understand what drives it. Most people scroll because it offers escape from discomfort. The human mind naturally seeks stimulation, and scrolling provides endless novelty with no effort required. It is easy, fast, and instantly rewarding, but just as a body that consumes too much sugar loses its strength, a mind that relies on endless scrolling loses its sharpness. The solution is not to simply remove the phone, but to replace the habit with something that nourishes curiosity in a more meaningful way. That is where smart reading comes in. Smart reading is the art of choosing what enters your mind with intention. It is not about reading more. It is about reading better. A single thoughtful article, a few pages from a well-written book, or a brief essay from a wise thinker can add more value to your mind than hours of random scrolling ever could. The goal is to engage your attention, not escape from it. When you read with purpose, your mind begins to stretch. You start to see patterns, question ideas, and expand perspective. The first step in building this practice is awareness. Notice the moments when you instinctively reach for your phone. It may happen when you feel bored, anxious, or tired. Instead of punishing yourself for the habit, pause and redirect. Keep a book, a reading app, or an article saved for these moments. Whenever you feel the urge to scroll, replace it with a few paragraphs of something that feeds your mind. The act of substitution is powerful. It trains the brain to seek fulfillment through learning rather than distraction. One of the best ways to make this shift sustainable is to curate your reading environment. Surround yourself with material that both challenges and inspires you. It might be books on psychology, history, philosophy, science, or art. It could be essays from people who have lived deeply and thought carefully. Choose writers who make you reflect, not react. The mind grows when it encounters ideas that demand thought. Every time you choose reading over scrolling, you are voting for the person you want to become, someone whose curiosity leads rather than follows. It is also helpful to create small rituals that make reading inviting. Keep your reading material accessible. Carry a physical book in your bag, or use an e-reader app with all distractions turned off. Read during small windows of time that would otherwise be wasted waiting in line, sitting on a bus, or during coffee breaks. These micro moments of learning accumulate silently. What seems like a few minutes today becomes hours of meaningful growth over weeks and months. Repetition is the bridge between intention and transformation. Smart reading also involves reflection. Reading without reflection is like eating without digesting. After each reading session, take a moment to note a single insight that stood out to you. Write it down, think about it throughout the day, and find ways to apply it. This deepens understanding and keeps the information alive in your mind. Over time, this process sharpens your memory, improves your ability to think critically, and helps you connect ideas across different areas of life. The beauty of smart reading lies in its stillness. When you read, you slow down enough to listen to your own thoughts. Unlike the endless scroll, which floods your mind with noise, reading invites quiet concentration. This quiet is where clarity grows. It is where creativity begins to breathe. Many of the world's greatest thinkers, artists, and leaders credited their success not to constant stimulation, but to deep, focused reading. They learned to listen before they spoke, to understand before they acted. That kind of discipline begins with choosing substance over distraction. Replacing idle scrolling is not about rejecting technology, it's about using it wisely. The same device that drains your attention can also expand your mind if used with intention. Follow thinkers, educators, and storytellers who offer perspective rather than noise. Read newsletters or blogs that teach you something useful. Watch short educational videos instead of endless entertainment. The internet can be a library or a landfill. What it becomes depends on how you use it. This change is not always easy. Scrolling is addictive because it offers instant gratification. Reading, by contrast, requires effort and patience. The rewards are slower but deeper. As your reading habit strengthens, your tolerance for shallow content weakens. You begin to crave substance over stimulation. The joy shifts from mindless distraction to meaningful engagement. You notice your thoughts becoming clearer, your conversations deeper, and your ideas more original. This is the quiet transformation that comes from choosing to feed the mind rather than numb it. There is also a deeper emotional benefit to this shift. Scrolling often leaves people comparing their lives to others, feeling anxious or inadequate. Smart reading, on the other hand, builds inner peace. It grounds you in thought instead of comparison. It reminds you that growth is an individual journey, not a race. Reading gives you time to think, to question, to explore your own beliefs. In this space of reflection, confidence begins to grow. You start trusting your own judgment instead of absorbing the noise of others. Every page read with intention becomes a brick in the foundation of self-education. Each idea you encounter adds a new dimension to your understanding of life. When you replace idle scrolling with reading, you reclaim not only time but also your sense of direction. You no longer drift through the digital world, absorbing whatever appears on the screen. You move through it with awareness, choosing what shapes your thought. The most powerful benefit of this practice is that it awakens curiosity. When you read regularly, you start to ask better questions. You become interested in how things work, why people think the way they do, and how you can improve your own life. Curiosity is the root of wisdom. It keeps the mind alive, flexible, and open. Every moment spent reading becomes an investment in that aliveness. To sustain this practice, make it rewarding. Create a list of topics that genuinely fascinate you. When you feel the temptation to scroll, open something from that list instead. Challenge yourself to finish one meaningful article each day or one book each month. Track your progress and celebrate it. Small wins build momentum. As this habit grows stronger, the urge to scroll fades naturally because you begin to experience the depth that distraction can never provide. In a world overflowing with noise, focus is a superpower. Choosing to read instead of scroll is a quiet act of rebellion. It is a way of saying that your mind deserves more than fragments and filters. Each time you open a book or article with purpose, you are training your mind to think rather than react, to understand rather than consume. Over time, this discipline becomes part of your identity. You become someone who learns deliberately, who values depth over distraction, who seeks truth over trend. The transformation happens slowly but profoundly. Days turn into weeks, and weeks into months. And without realizing it, you begin to feel a deeper sense of clarity and strength. Your attention becomes sharper, your thoughts become more structured, you no longer chase novelty, you pursue understanding. The world may still tempt you with endless scrolling, but you will no longer be easily swayed. You will have built a fortress of focus within yourself. Replacing idle scrolls with smart reads is not a small change. It is a quiet revolution of the mind. It is choosing to rise above distraction, to reclaim attention, and to cultivate wisdom. It is how an ordinary day transforms into an extraordinary opportunity for growth. The moments once wasted on empty scrolling can now become moments of enlightenment, reflection, and progress. Every page, every paragraph, every insight moves you closer to the best version of yourself, focused, thoughtful, and deeply alive. Number 3. Turn commutes into learning audio sessions. Every day, countless hours slip away unnoticed in cars, trains, buses, and long walks between destinations. These moments, often filled with silence or background noise, represent one of the most overlooked opportunities for growth. Commutes are often seen as wasted time, something to be endured rather than embraced. Yet, for those who choose to use this time wisely, it becomes a daily classroom, a sanctuary of self-education, and a gateway to transformation. Turning commutes into learning audio sessions is not merely a productivity trick. It is an intentional practice that reshapes how time is valued and how the mind is trained to seek progress in motion. When the body is moving but the mind is idle, it tends to wander toward worry or distraction. People replay the past or predict the future, filling the space with anxious thoughts. But when the mind is directed toward meaningful input, the same journey becomes a form of progress, whether driving to work, waiting at a stoplight, or walking through crowded streets. These are moments that can feed growth instead of emptiness. A simple shift, listening to audiobooks, podcasts, or recorded lectures, turns every mile into a step toward mastery. Learning through listening has its own unique power. Unlike reading, it allows the body to remain active while the mind absorbs new ideas. The rhythm of movement, combined with the steady flow of words, creates a meditative focus. You're not just passing time, you're building knowledge. The voice of a great thinker, storyteller, or teacher can fill that space with wisdom, and soon the journey that once felt ordinary becomes something meaningful. The mind begins to associate travel with learning, and the commute transforms into a ritual of self-education. The effectiveness of audio learning lies in its accessibility. There's no need for extra time or special equipment. A pair of headphones and curiosity are enough. You can explore the thoughts of philosophers while waiting in traffic, learn business strategy on a train, or study a new language during a walk. The mind adapts quickly to this rhythm, turning repetitive routes into meaningful sessions. The key is consistency, using these pockets of time each day to stretch understanding rather than letting them fade into routine. What makes this practice truly powerful is that it changes your relationship with time. Most people complain about not having enough hours in the day to learn something new. Yet, when they start using commute time intentionally, they discover how much potential those hours hold. A 30-minute drive each way equals 5 hours a week. In a month, that's about 20 hours. Enough time to finish multiple audiobooks or dive into several podcast series. Over a year, that adds up to more than 200 hours of focused learning. That's the equivalent of a full semester of education earned simply by repurposing time that would otherwise be lost. Choosing what to listen to is an art in itself. The best audio sessions are those that align with your goals and stretch your thinking. If you want to strengthen discipline, listen to thinkers who speak on philosophy and personal growth. If you're interested in creativity, seek out storytellers and innovators who share their process. The diversity of content available today means that you can tailor your education to your aspirations. What matters most is that you listen with intent. Passive listening produces little change, but engaged listening, where you reflect and apply what you hear, transforms information into wisdom. To make the most of audio learning, preparation matters. Create a playlist or library of content before the week begins. Download audiobooks or episodes in advance, so you are never left without material. Choose formats that match your mood or energy level. Some mornings might call for motivational talks, while evenings might suit deeper philosophical discussions. This deliberate preparation removes friction, ensuring that every commute starts smoothly and purposefully. Another powerful habit is to take short mental notes during or after each session. You can record voice notes, summarize key ideas once you arrive, or reflect silently on what stood out. The goal is not to memorize every word, but to capture the essence, the insight that resonates most. Even a single idea carried through the day can shift how you think, speak, and act. Over time, these reflections accumulate into a well of personal wisdom drawn from the voices of countless teachers. Listening while commuting also trains focus in a subtle yet effective way. The world around you moves fast. Horns, conversations, engines, and announcements compete for attention. Learning to maintain concentration amid this movement strengthens mental discipline. It teaches the mind to stay engaged, despite distractions, a skill that carries over into work, study, and life. The more you practice this, the sharper your attention becomes. Eventually, noise no longer controls you. You control your attention within it. There is also a spiritual depth to this practice. When you use your commute to learn, you turn mundane time into sacred time. You begin to view movement as part of your personal evolution, rather than a gap between destinations. Every journey, no matter how routine, becomes a metaphor for growth. You enter your car or step onto a train, not just to travel through space, but to travel through thought. The act of learning transforms even crowded commutes into peaceful, purposeful experiences. Consistency builds momentum. The first few days might feel forced, especially if you're used to music or silence, but as you start noticing how much knowledge you can absorb in a week, motivation grows naturally. The mind thrives on progress. It begins to crave learning once it associates travel with enrichment. Soon, you'll find yourself looking forward to commutes, not for the destination, but for the opportunity to listen, reflect, and grow. What makes this habit sustainable is variety. Alternate between different genres and voices. Mix educational content with inspiration, storytelling, and interviews. The mind stays engaged when it encounters freshness. Some days, listen to something that challenges your beliefs. Other days, listen to something that soothes or uplifts. Balance complexity with simplicity. The goal is not perfection, but continuous engagement, a lifelong dialogue between curiosity and growth. The benefits of this daily practice ripple into every part of life. You start thinking more clearly and speaking more confidently. Ideas from different sources begin to connect in your mind, forming insights that feel original and powerful. You begin to notice how the lessons you've absorbed influence your decisions, your mindset, and even your attitude toward challenges. The road or train that once symbolized boredom becomes a place of learning and creativity. Even when fatigue or frustration creeps in during travel, the voice in your ear can serve as a reminder of purpose. A single story or phrase can shift your state of mind, turning irritation into perspective. You realize that education is not limited to classrooms or formal study. It's a living, breathing process that can happen anywhere, even behind the wheel or between train stops. The power lies not in the environment, but in the intention to learn from it. There is a quiet satisfaction that comes from using time meaningfully. When you step out of your car or arrive at your destination, you carry with you not just the memory of a journey, but the imprint of an idea. That feeling of growth, however small, adds substance to the day. You begin to see how much potential exists in what others overlook. Every minute becomes a chance to improve. Every commute a bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. This practice also reshapes how you view modern life. Many complain about being too busy to learn or improve themselves, yet the time is always there, hidden in the in-between moments. Turning those moments into learning sessions requires no additional effort, only awareness and discipline. It is not about working harder. It is about thinking differently about time. The one who uses ordinary hours for learning eventually gains extraordinary results. Over the months, this habit builds not only knowledge but identity. You start to see yourself as a lifelong learner, someone who seeks understanding even in motion. This identity carries into other areas of life. You listen more deeply to people, ask more meaningful questions, and approach problems with insight instead of frustration. You realize that wisdom is not something acquired once, but something cultivated daily through small, consistent choices. Every commute is an opportunity to learn, reflect, and rise above mediocrity. You do not need more hours in the day. You need to use the hours you already have with intention. The person who fills travel time with learning transforms every road into a classroom and every destination into progress. Over time, these quiet moments of listening accumulate into something profound: a body of knowledge, a sharpened mind, and a strengthened soul. The journey ceases to be wasted time. It becomes a living symbol of growth in motion, proof that even in movement one can rise. Number 4. Reflect, review, refine knowledge each night. Nighttime holds a quiet, kind of wisdom. As the world slows down and the noise of the day begins to fade, the mind becomes clearer, more honest, and open to understanding. It is during these hours, before sleep claims the body, that reflection becomes most powerful. To reflect, review, and refine your knowledge each night is to turn experience into insight and activity into growth. This practice is the art of ending the day not by escaping from it, but by learning from it. An ancient, yet often forgotten discipline that sharpens awareness, strengthens wisdom, and brings order to the mind. Each day fills the mind with information, impressions, and emotions. Most people move from one day to the next without sorting through what they've absorbed. They carry unprocessed thoughts like clutter, which eventually dulls clarity and creativity. But when reflection becomes a nightly ritual, the mind begins to clear itself. Just as the body needs rest to recover, the mind needs reflection to renew. Taking time to look back before closing your eyes is not a luxury. It is a necessity for anyone committed to self-mastery and meaningful growth. Reflection is not about judgment, it's about understanding. It's the practice of quietly asking yourself what truly happened today, not from the surface level of events, but from the deeper layer of meaning beneath them. What did you learn? What challenged your patience? What strengthened your character? Which moments revealed weakness and which showed growth? This kind of questioning turns experience into a teacher. Every day, no matter how routine or chaotic, carries lessons waiting to be noticed. To begin this practice, find a space that invites calm. A corner of your room, a desk by the window, or simply your bed before you sleep. Dim the lights, silence your phone, and breathe deeply for a moment. This small act of stillness prepares the mind to observe rather than react. Then mentally walk through the day from morning to night. Recall conversations, choices, successes, and mistakes. Don't rush. The goal is to see clearly, not to criticize. Reflection is a mirror, not a weapon. Reviewing the day helps you see patterns in your behavior and thinking. Maybe you notice that your energy dips after certain tasks, or that specific people inspire or drain you. Maybe you realize that certain habits push you forward while others hold you back. Awareness is the foundation of improvement, and nightly review is the most consistent way to build it. The person who reviews each day grows wiser than the person who simply moves through it. As you review, write down what stands out. It doesn't need to be pages of detail. A few sentences or even single words can capture the essence. The act of writing grounds thought into something tangible. Over time, these notes become a map of your growth. You'll begin to notice progress, see recurring challenges, and measure how your thinking evolves. Some of the world's greatest thinkers, leaders, and philosophers practice nightly journaling for this very reason. It trains the mind to examine life rather than drift through it unconsciously. Refining knowledge is the final step in this nightly process. It means taking what you've learned and polishing it into wisdom you can use. Perhaps you realized a mistake in how you handled a situation. Refinement means understanding why it happened and deciding how to respond differently next time. Maybe you encountered a new idea that resonated with you. Refinement is turning that idea into action. Knowledge that isn't applied fades quickly, but knowledge that's refined through reflection becomes part of who you are. This nightly ritual also strengthens memory and comprehension. The brain processes information during rest, and when you review before sleeping, you give it clear instructions on what to prioritize. Instead of drifting into unconscious thought, your mind organizes and stores what truly matters. You wake up not only refreshed, but sharper, more focused, and better prepared for the next day. The simple act of reviewing and refining can turn ordinary sleep into a tool for deeper learning. Another powerful benefit of reflection is emotional clarity. The day often leaves behind traces of frustration, disappointment, or anxiety. Unchecked, these emotions carry over into the next morning, coloring your perception and behavior. Reflection allows you to release what no longer serves you. By naming emotions and understanding their source, you strip them of their power. Instead of suppressing feelings, you transform them into understanding. This creates inner peace, the kind that no external comfort can replicate. Many people chase progress by adding more tasks, goals, or routines, yet overlook the quiet discipline of ending the day, consciously. True growth doesn't come only from what you do, but from how deeply you understand what you've done. Reflection is the balance between action and awareness. It ensures that motion leads to meaning, not just exhaustion. Without it, even the most productive day risks becoming hollow. To deepen this habit, develop a few guiding questions that suit your life. Ask yourself, what went well today and why? What didn't go as planned? And what can I learn from it? Did I act in alignment with my values? Did I waste time or use it wisely? Did I grow a little wiser than I was yesterday? These questions act as anchors, pulling your thoughts toward insight instead of drifting into regret or overanalysis. Refinement also requires humility. It means admitting when you don't know enough, when your perspective was limited, or when you acted from ego rather than wisdom. This humility doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you. It opens the door to genuine learning. Each night becomes a conversation between who you are and who you want to become. And in that quiet dialogue, growth begins to take shape. Sometimes reflection reveals discomfort. You may see habits that no longer serve you, or recognize patterns you've ignored. This can feel unsettling, but it is a necessary part of transformation. Growth requires truth, and truth often arrives wrapped in discomfort. Facing it nightly, in small, honest doses, prevents it from accumulating into regret later. Courage and reflection is what builds character in life. Technology can be both an aid and a distraction in this practice. Use it with intention. Digital journals, audio notes, or reflection apps can help structure your thoughts, but they should never replace the quiet act of being present with your own mind. The goal is not to produce perfect entries, but to cultivate awareness. Reflection is not about recording a polished story. It's about capturing raw truth before it fades into the background. Over time, this nightly discipline begins to influence how you live your days. You start noticing your thoughts and actions more consciously because you know you will meet them again at night. This awareness naturally improves decision-making. You begin to pause before reacting, to listen before speaking, to think before acting. Life becomes more deliberate, less chaotic. Reflection creates accountability, the quiet kind that doesn't rely on external judgment but on inner integrity. Incorporating gratitude into reflection adds another layer of strength. Before sleep, take a moment to acknowledge something positive from the day, a lesson, a person, or even a small moment of peace. Gratitude balances the mind, reminding it that growth is not only about fixing mistakes, but also about appreciating progress. It shifts focus from what's missing to what's meaningful, ensuring that learning is rooted in optimism rather than self-criticism. The more consistently you practice reflection, the more refined your knowledge becomes. Wisdom is not about how much you know, but how deeply you understand what you've experienced. Reviewing and refining daily turns scattered information into cohesive insight. It bridges the gap between theory and application, turning awareness into habit. The mind becomes disciplined, not by force, but by understanding its own pattern. The beauty of this nightly practice is its simplicity. It requires no special tools, no elaborate preparation, just honesty and time. Even 10 minutes of reflection before sleep can change how you experience life. Those few minutes create a pause between one day and the next, ensuring that you carry forward only what serves your growth. You no longer wake up burdened by yesterday's confusion. You wake up guided by clarity. Over weeks and months, the cumulative effect of reflection becomes profound. You begin to sense greater control over your emotions, deeper understanding of your behavior, and sharper awareness of your goals. You evolve quietly, without forcing change. The discipline of nightly review becomes a compass that keeps you aligned with purpose even when life grows chaotic. To reflect, review, and refine each night is to live with intention. It transforms experience into education, chaos into clarity, and habit into wisdom. Every evening becomes an opportunity to reset the mind, to collect the lessons of the day, and to prepare the spirit for what lies ahead. Growth doesn't happen only in grand moments of achievement. It happens in these quiet intervals when you pause, observe, and learn. The night becomes a teacher, the mind its student, and through reflection, each day becomes a step toward mastery. Number 5. Study deeply. Apply lessons instantly today. There is a vast difference between knowing something and living it. Many people fill their minds with endless streams of information, yet their actions remain unchanged. They read books, attend seminars, listen to motivational talks, and gather countless insights. But when the time comes to apply what they've learned, they hesitate, forget, or postpone. True education is not measured by the amount of knowledge one collects, but by how effectively that knowledge shapes decisions, habits, and results. To study deeply and apply lessons instantly is to bridge the gap between theory and practice, between learning and transformation. It is the discipline of making wisdom alive in daily life. Depth matters more than volume. The modern world celebrates quantity. How many books you've read, how many podcasts you've listened to, how many ideas you've encountered. But without depth, this consumption becomes shallow entertainment for the intellect. Studying deeply means choosing fewer subjects but engaging with them intensely. It means asking questions until intending becomes clear, and exploring concepts until they sink into intuition. This approach develops mastery instead of familiarity. A single lesson, understood thoroughly and applied consistently, can reshape a person's life far more than a library of half-digested knowledge. Deep study begins with focus. To study deeply, you must give your full attention to the present moment. Distraction is the enemy of depth. When your mind is scattered across screens, notifications, and background noise, even the best material loses its power. Depth requires stillness, a deliberate slowing down of thought, so understanding can take root. This is why many of history's wisest minds, scientists, philosophers, and leaders, valued solitude. In moments of undisturbed focus, learning transforms from information gathering into genuine comprehension. Studying deeply also means approaching every lesson with humility. It requires acknowledging that there is always more to learn, even from the simplest ideas. A wise person revisits principles repeatedly, each time uncovering a deeper meaning. This mindset keeps growth continuous. When you approach learning with arrogance, you close the door to wisdom. But when you study with humility, every word, concept, or experience becomes a doorway to insight. The goal is not to appear knowledgeable but to become understanding. Once understanding is achieved, action must follow immediately. The mind tends to resist action, preferring the comfort of planning and imagining. But learning that remains theoretical eventually fades. Knowledge has a short lifespan if not reinforced through practice. The moment you learn something valuable, find a way to apply it before the day ends. If you read about communication, use it in your next conversation. If you study discipline, apply it to your next task. If you discover a principle of patience, test it in the face of irritation. The power of immediate application lies in turning knowledge into experience. When you apply lessons instantly, learning becomes embodied. You no longer just understand something intellectually, you feel it, test it, and see it unfold in real situations. This creates emotional and physical memory, making the lesson part of your identity. People often underestimate how much can be learned through direct application. The world itself becomes your classroom. Every interaction, challenge, and moment of uncertainty becomes a chance to practice what you've studied. This integration is how growth becomes permanent. It's easy to mistake mental excitement for mastery. The rush that comes after reading something inspiring can feel like progress, but without application, it evaporates quickly. Real growth happens in the quiet space after the inspiration fades, when you choose to act on what you've learned despite discomfort. That decision marks the shift from passive learner to active practitioner. Each time you apply a new principle, you test its truth, strengthen your discipline, and earn wisdom that no amount of passive learning can replicate. Deep study also requires repetition. The human mind forgets quickly unless lessons are reinforced. Returning to the same material after applying it in real life often reveals new layers of understanding. It's like polishing a mirror. The more you work with an idea, the clearer your reflection becomes. Repetition is not redundancy, it is refinement. The deeper you go, the more you uncover about yourself. This is why true mastery feels simple yet profound. It's not about learning more, but about understanding what you already know more completely. To cultivate this practice, set a rhythm for your learning. Each morning or afternoon, dedicate focused time to study a single idea. Keep distractions away and approach it with curiosity. Then, as you move through the day, actively look for situations where that idea can be practiced, whether at work, in relationships, or in solitude. Seek opportunities to embody what you've studied. This deliberate cycle, study, apply, reflect, creates momentum. The knowledge becomes fluid rather than static, alive rather than stored. A common barrier to application is fear of imperfection. Many people hesitate to act on new knowledge because they fear making mistakes. But mistakes are essential to deep learning. They expose blind spots, test theories, and strengthen understanding. When you apply what you've learned and it doesn't work as expected, that failure becomes a teacher. You refine your approach, adjust your interpretation, and grow stronger. Application without fear accelerates growth more than cautious perfection ever could. The habit of immediate application also sharpens decision-making. It trains you to move from thought to action swiftly, reducing hesitation and overthinking. This decisiveness builds confidence. You begin to trust your ability to learn and adapt. The mind, once accustomed to delaying, becomes proactive. Every lesson applied becomes evidence of competence, reinforcing a cycle of continuous improvement. The person who studies deeply and acts quickly gains an advantage that cannot be taught. They learn through living. This practice is not limited to academic or professional learning. It applies to all areas of life: health, relationships, mindset, creativity, and personal growth. For example, if you study mindfulness, apply it while eating, walking, or listening to someone speak. If you study resilience, apply it the next time something goes wrong. Each action, however small, strengthens the bridge between knowledge and embodiment. Transformation happens not through grand gestures, but through consistent practice of what you already know. Deep study also cultivates patience. True understanding takes time, repetition, and attention. The more deeply you engage with an idea, the more layers you uncover. It is like digging a well. The deeper you go, the purer the water. Quick learning may impress others, but deep learning changes you. The process itself becomes fulfilling because it's not about speed, it's about substance. When you learn deeply, you stop chasing novelty and start valuing depth. You realize that wisdom is not found in endless new ideas, but in mastering timeless truths. Applying lessons instantly turns life into a living workshop. Each experience tests your understanding and reveals what still needs refinement. Some lessons will work immediately, others will need adjustment. The key is to remain engaged, to keep learning through doing. The moment you stop applying, knowledge begins to decay. But when you act on it daily, it grows stronger, clearer, and more useful. Action breathes life into understanding. To sustain this habit, create small daily challenges that align with what you're learning. If you're studying focus, challenge yourself to complete one task without interruption. If you're learning about empathy, practice listening fully in your next conversation. These challenges turn learning into behavior into habit. Over time, you'll notice that wisdom begins to guide you effortlessly. You won't have to remind yourself to apply lessons. They'll flow naturally through your actions. Deep study and instant application also shape identity. You begin to see yourself as a person who learns with purpose and acts with intention. This identity drives consistency. You stop waiting for the right time or perfect conditions to apply what you've learned. Every moment becomes an opportunity to grow. This mindset keeps you grounded in progress rather than perfection. It transforms learning from an event into a lifestyle. The combination of deep study and immediate application creates compound growth. Each day builds on the last, and small actions accumulate into profound change. What once required conscious effort becomes instinct. You no longer just learn about patience, courage, or discipline. You live them. This is the ultimate goal of education. Not to store knowledge, but to embody it so completely that it guides your behavior naturally. Studying deeply and applying lessons instantly is a lifelong discipline. It demands awareness, effort, and humility, but it rewards you with wisdom that no one can take away. Knowledge without action fades like smoke, but knowledge tested through experience becomes solid like stone. When you learn with depth and act with urgency, you transform each day into an opportunity for mastery. Life itself becomes your classroom, and every moment becomes a lesson. The mind learns, the hands apply, and the heart understands. And through this unity, growth becomes inevitable. Number 6. Read widely, question everything you learn. To read widely and question everything you learn is to train the mind to be both open and discerning. True wisdom does not come from memorizing facts, but from exploring perspectives, testing ideas, and understanding that knowledge evolves. Every great thinker in history shared this quality, an unshakable curiosity paired with a refusal to accept things at face value. The ability to read broadly expands your world, but the courage to question what you read defines your depth. A person who reads without reflection may collect information, but one who questions develops insight. Reading widely means exposing yourself to diverse sources of thought. It means reaching beyond your comfort zone and embracing the unfamiliar. The mind grows only when stretched by new perspectives, and that stretching can be uncomfortable. When you read across disciplines, philosophy, science, psychology, art, history, you begin to see connections that others miss. You start recognizing patterns that tie different ideas together. Wisdom is not built in isolation. It's a mosaic formed by countless fragments of understanding gathered from many corners of life. Each book, each voice, each story adds color and shape to your evolving perception of the world. When you read only what confirms your beliefs, you trap yourself in intellectual stagnation. Comforting ideas are easy to consume, but they rarely challenge you to think differently. Growth requires friction. The books that unsettle you are often the ones that teach you the most. They force you to defend, redefine, or sometimes abandon your assumptions. It's in this confrontation between old beliefs and new possibilities that the mind sharpens. To read widely, therefore, is not to seek agreement, but to seek expansion. You don't read to be right. You read to understand. Reading from opposing viewpoints develops intellectual humility. It reminds you that your current understanding, no matter how solid it feels, is limited. Every author, expert, or teacher speaks from a particular experience or perspective. No single voice holds all truth. By engaging with conflicting ideas, you strengthen your ability to think critically and discern what is useful. It is this discernment, this ability to evaluate rather than absorb, that separates wisdom from mere knowledge. The goal is not to accumulate opinions but to cultivate clarity. Questioning everything you learn is not cynicism, it's curiosity at work. It means treating every claim, idea, or principle as an invitation to explore rather than a rule to obey. Ask where it comes from, why it matters, and how it applies. Investigate the reasoning behind it. When you encounter a new concept, don't rush to accept or reject it. Test it. Compare it with your own experience and other sources. This process turns passive reading into active learning. Each question you ask deepens understanding and reveals nuances that would otherwise remain hidden. Questioning also guards you against blind acceptance. In a world overflowing with information, not everything that sounds true is true. The modern era rewards confidence, not always accuracy. To protect your mind, you must treat knowledge like a craftsman treats material. Examining its quality before building with it, ask, who is saying this? What might they gain? What evidence supports their claim? This habit doesn't make you distrustful. It makes you discerning. You begin to recognize patterns of persuasion, bias, and assumption that influence how knowledge is presented. When you question what you read, you also strengthen your reasoning. You learn to build arguments, not just repeat them. This process forges independent thinking, the ability to form conclusions grounded in logic and experience, rather than imitation. The questioning mind cannot be easily manipulated because it values truth over popularity. It listens carefully but decides independently. Such a mind is rare in a world driven by trends and echo chambers, yet it is essential for anyone seeking real growth. Reading widely also refines empathy. Every author you read offers a window into a different mind. Through stories, essays, and philosophies, you experience realities beyond your own. You learn how others think, feel, and interpret life. This broadens your emotional intelligence. The more diverse your reading, the more flexible your understanding of human nature becomes. You begin to see that there are countless ways to live, believe, and strive. This realization softens judgment and strengthens connection. Empathy, in turn, enriches wisdom. It reminds you that understanding is not just intellectual but also human. The habit of questioning extends beyond books. It becomes a way of living. You begin to question your reactions, choices, and assumptions. You stop accepting things just because they are common. This mindset cultivates awareness. It pushes you to explore deeper reasons behind your behavior and the world's systems. When you practice questioning daily, your perception sharpens. You become more conscious of what influences you, more deliberate in what you believe, and more grounded in how you act. To cultivate wide reading and critical questioning, Structure your approach intentionally. Choose books and materials from different genres and eras: ancient philosophy, modern psychology, biographies, poetry, science, and culture. Alternate between subjects that strengthen your profession and those that nourish your soul. Each field offers something unique. History teaches perspective, literature nurtures empathy, science develops logic, and philosophy refines clarity. The variety keeps your mind agile. It prevents intellectual complacency and fosters adaptability, one of the most valuable traits in an ever-changing world. As you read, take notes, not just summaries, but reflections. Write down your thoughts, disagreements, and questions. Treat reading as a conversation rather than a lecture. Engage with the author as if you were sitting across from them, challenging and exploring their ideas. This deepens comprehension and turns information into internalized understanding. Over time, these reflections become a personal map of your intellectual growth. You'll see how your thinking evolves and where your beliefs have shifted or solidified. Reading widely also demands patience. The mind cannot absorb depth when it is rushed. Slow reading allows space for contemplation. Sometimes you may find that a single paragraph contains more truth than an entire book, but it takes stillness to recognize it. Quality matters more than quantity. A single well-understood idea can change how you see everything else. When you read slowly and question deeply, each lesson becomes a seed that grows quietly over time. Exposure to conflicting ideas can sometimes create discomfort or confusion. This is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of progress. Growth often feels like uncertainty. When your mind stretches to accommodate new perspectives, there will be moments when nothing seems clear. Trust this process. The fog eventually lifts, and what remains is a more refined understanding, one that belongs truly to you, not borrowed from anyone else. The ability to sit with ambiguity, without rushing to conclusion, is the mark of a mature mind. To read widely and question everything also develops resilience. In a world of constant noise and shifting truths, you learn to stay centered. You no longer need to cling to certainty, because your strength lies in adaptability. You understand that ideas are tools, not prisons. You can use them, improve them, or discard them without fear. This flexibility makes you unshakable, because your thinking is rooted not in dogma but in exploration. Wisdom is not about knowing all the answers, but about refining the quality of your questions. The more you question, the sharper your awareness becomes. You begin to see the underlying patterns that connect knowledge across fields. This integrative vision allows you to solve problems creatively, communicate clearly, and lead with insight. Those who read widely and think critically become builders of understanding in a world that often repeats without reflection. Every book, article, and conversation has something to offer, but it is your responsibility to extract the essence. Approach each new idea with gratitude for the opportunity to learn and with courage to examine it deeply. The mind that reads broadly but questions fiercely remains free. It refuses to be trapped by trends, labels, or authority. Such a mind seeks truth wherever it hides and accepts correction when wrong. It values wisdom over pride and curiosity over comfort. The practice of reading widely and questioning everything transforms how you experience life. You start to notice connections between your readings and your real-world choices. You think before reacting, observe before judging, and learn before assuming. Knowledge becomes a living force, guiding you through uncertainty with clarity and calm. The mind becomes disciplined, yet open, confident yet humble. Over time, this habit creates a quiet power. You no longer rely on others to interpret the world for you. You become your own teacher, drawing wisdom from every source but enslaved by none. You approach learning not as a chore but as a way of being. The wider you read, the richer your understanding. The more you question, the clearer your truth. This is the essence of self-education, a mind forever open, disciplined, and free. Number 7. Build habits that feed daily curiosity. Curiosity is the fire that keeps the mind alive. It is the silent force that pushes a person to look beyond the surface, to ask why things are the way they are, and to search for what lies unseen. Without curiosity, even intelligence becomes dull, creativity fades, and learning turns mechanical. Building habits that feed daily curiosity means constructing a lifestyle that encourages wonder, discovery, and engagement with life in all its detail. It is about creating routines that make curiosity not an occasional spark, but a continuous flame. Curiosity begins with attention. Most people move through their days half aware, rushing from one obligation to another, their minds occupied by repetition. They see, but do not observe, hear, but do not listen. To awaken curiosity, you must first slow down enough to notice. Notice how things work, how people behave, how the world moves. Each observation, however small, opens a question. Why does this happen? How could it be different? This habit of noticing transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for learning. When you train your mind to be attentive, curiosity arises naturally because the world is endlessly intricate once you start looking closely. To build a habit of curiosity, make questioning a daily ritual. Ask yourself new questions every morning, questions that spark thought rather than seek quick answers. They can be as small as what can I learn from this task today, or as broad as what truth am I ignoring. Writing these questions down keeps your mind sharp and your focus active. The goal is not to answer every question immediately, but to live with them, letting your mind explore them throughout the day. Curiosity thrives in the presence of good questions, not easy answers. Another way to feed curiosity is to expose yourself to novelty regularly. The mind becomes stagnant when it is trapped in sameness. Break routines that dull your awareness. Take different routes to familiar places. Read about subjects you know little about. Speak to people from different walks of life. And try unfamiliar experiences. Novelty stimulates the brain, making it alert and open. When you deliberately introduce variation into your life, you reignite the sense of exploration that fuels creative and intellectual growth. However, curiosity is not just about seeking the new. It's about looking deeper into the familiar. You don't have to travel far or change your environment drastically to stay curious. Even everyday experiences hold layers of insight if you approach them with interest. The way someone speaks, the pattern of light on a wall, the rhythm of a routine task, all can reveal lessons if examined with fresh eyes. This depth of attention transforms monotony into way-in. You begin to see that the world is not lacking in wonder. It's our awareness that grows dull. Building habits that nurture curiosity also requires letting go of the fear of ignorance. Many people stop asking questions because they're afraid of appearing uninformed. Yet admitting that you don't know is the first step toward genuine learning. A curious mind has no pride. It remains open, flexible, and ready to explore. The moment you decide it's acceptable to not have all the answers, your curiosity expands freely. Ignorance becomes not a flaw but an invitation. Every question you ask breaks down the illusion of certainty and brings you closer to understanding. To maintain daily curiosity, create time for reflection. Curiosity isn't just about absorbing new information. It's about connecting it to what you already know. Reflection turns random insights into meaningful knowledge. Spend a few moments each evening asking what caught your attention that day and why. What surprised you? What made you think differently? What questions remain? This habit keeps your curiosity alive by showing you that every day offers something to learn. It also strengthens memory and creativity by linking experiences into coherent patterns. Another essential element of curiosity is playfulness. Seriousness without play limits imagination. Children are naturally curious because they approach life as a game of discovery. They experiment, test, and explore without fear of failure. Adults often lose this freedom as they grow more cautious and rigid. To rebuild curiosity, revive your sense of play. Experiment with ideas without worrying about outcomes. Engage in creative activities not for achievement, but for exploration. Playfulness removes pressure and allows the mind to wander, where the best insights are often found. Reading, listening, and observing can also be turned into daily curiosity rituals. Instead of passively consuming information, engage actively with it. When you read, pause to question the author's viewpoint. When you listen to someone speak, pay attention not just to their words, but to their emotions and motivations. When you watch the world, look for patterns and meaning beneath the surface. These small habits train your brain to think dynamically. Curiosity becomes a mental muscle. It strengthens with consistent use. Surround yourself with environments and people that stimulate curiosity. The company you keep influences the way you think. Seek out individuals who question, explore, and challenge ideas. Conversations with such people spark intellectual energy and inspire you to see differently. Similarly, create physical spaces that invite curiosity. Fill your environment with books, art, or tools that spark your interest. Keep reminders of questions you want to explore visible. A list on your desk, a board of ideas, a notebook of reflection. These cues act as daily prompts for exploration. Technology, if used wisely, can also support curiosity. Instead of endless scrolling through trivial content, use digital tools to research topics, explore educational media, or connect with thinkers around the world. The key is intentionality, using technology as a bridge to knowledge rather than an escape from thought. A curious person doesn't consume blindly, they navigate deliberately, seeking insights and connection. Curiosity also thrives on patience. Many discoveries emerge slowly, after long observation and thought. In an age that values speed, curiosity demands a return to slowness. It requires sitting with uncertainty without rushing to conclusions. The more patient you are with exploration, the deeper your insights become. Curiosity is not about collecting answers quickly, but about understanding deeply. When you allow time for questions to mature, your understanding grows richer and more precise. To keep curiosity alive, balance structure and spontaneity. Routines create stability, but they can easily turn mechanical if not infused with purpose. Add moments of spontaneity within structure, unexpected breaks, creative pauses, short walks, or unscheduled thinking time. These small shifts awaken fresh perspectives. The habit of curiosity is not rigid. It breathes with flexibility. It allows you to explore while maintaining focus, to wander without losing direction. An important truth about curiosity is that it grows through sharing. When you discuss what you've discovered with others, you not only reinforce your learning, but also open new angles of thought. Dialogue multiplies curiosity because it introduces perspectives you may not have considered. Teaching, too, deepens curiosity. When you explain something to someone else, gaps in your understanding become visible, and that awareness drives further exploration. Curiosity, when shared, becomes a living exchange rather than a solitary pursuit. Over time, habits that feed curiosity reshape character. You become more adaptable, resilient, and open-minded. You begin to enjoy the process of learning rather than chasing conclusions. Challenges no longer intimidate you because you approach them as mysteries to solve rather than problems to avoid. Curiosity transforms fear into fascination. It turns the unknown from an obstacle into an adventure. This shift in attitude changes how you experience everything from relationships to work to personal growth. Feeding curiosity daily also protects against stagnation. The moment you stop being curious, you stop growing. Complacency is the silent killer of potential. Curiosity keeps your spirit youthful, your mind sharp, and your creativity alive. It fuels motivation not through external pressure but through genuine interest. The more curious you are, the more engaged you become with life, and that engagement translates into vitality. Even during difficult times, curiosity offers strength. When faced with setbacks, ask questions instead of surrendering. What can this teach me? What can I improve? What lies beneath this challenge? Curiosity shifts focus from frustration to growth. It replaces helplessness with exploration. This mindset is inherently resilient. It keeps you moving forward because it always seeks meaning. To sustain this way of living, remind yourself that curiosity is not something to wait for. It is something to cultivate. It begins with small actions: reading a paragraph more closely, observing a conversation more deeply, exploring a question more thoroughly. Each act builds upon the next, forming a lifestyle rooted in discovery. Over time, curiosity becomes as natural as breathing. You start each day not with routine fatigue, but with quiet excitement for what you might learn. The person who builds habits that feed daily curiosity becomes a lifelong student of existence. They do not need extraordinary opportunities to grow. They find them everywhere. The ordinary becomes fascinating. The mundane becomes meaningful. Their mind remains awake, adaptable, and alive to the richness of life. Curiosity, when sustained through habit, becomes a form of freedom, the freedom to keep evolving, to stay open, and to live with purpose every single day. Number 8. Teach what you learn to remember. The surest way to remember what you learn is to teach it. Teaching transforms knowledge from something you hold in your mind into something you embody. It forces you to articulate, clarify, and organize your understanding until it becomes part of who you are. When you explain an idea to someone else, you test the strength of your comprehension. What you cannot teach, you do not truly understand. This principle lies at the core of deep learning. Knowledge is not complete until it can be shared. Teaching what you learn is not limited to classrooms or lectures. It is a mindset, a habit of expressing ideas outwardly. Each time you share what you've discovered through conversation, writing, mentoring, or even casual discussion, you reinforce it within yourself. Knowledge fades when it stays confined, but when spoken, written, or demonstrated, it becomes structured and clear. This process transforms vague ideas into lasting insight. The act of teaching sharpens the edges of understanding, revealing where confusion hides and where mastery begins. When you learn something new, your mind absorbs it in fragments. It may make sense on the surface, but deeper retention requires connection. Teaching provides those connections. It compels you to organize thoughts, link ideas, and find examples that make concepts practical. You translate abstract knowledge into language others can grasp, and in doing so, you anchor it more firmly in your memory. The effort to communicate turns fleeting information into solid understanding. Each time you explain, you are not just informing others, you are reprogramming your own brain to remember. One of the reasons people forget what they learn is that they treat learning as a passive experience. They listen, read, or watch, assuming understanding is enough. But memory strengthens only through active engagement. Teaching is the most powerful form of active engagement because it demands complete attention. It challenges you to recall, analyze, and express clearly. You must simplify complex ideas, anticipate questions, and fill in gaps. This deep processing ensures that what you've learned stays accessible long after the initial excitement fades. Teaching also exposes weaknesses in your knowledge. When you begin explaining something and realize you can't articulate it smoothly, that struggle reveals what you haven't fully grasped. This feedback is invaluable. It guides you back to the material, showing exactly where further study is needed. The process becomes a cycle. Learn, teach, refine, repeat. With each repetition, your understanding deepens, your confidence grows, and your memory strengthens. Teaching becomes not just a way to share knowledge, but a method to perfect it. You don't need to be an expert to teach. In fact, teaching as a learner often has the greatest impact. Sharing insights while still exploring them keeps your curiosity alive and your humility intact. It reminds you that teaching is not about superiority, but about growth. Even explaining simple concepts to someone slightly behind you in understanding reinforces your foundation. Every teacher was once a beginner, and every beginner who teaches accelerates mastery. The willingness to share as you learn transforms you from a consumer of knowledge into a contributor to it. The best teachers know that teaching is a form of learning in disguise. When you teach, you encounter new questions from others, questions that challenge your assumptions and reveal blind spots. These moments push you to think more deeply. You begin to see the subject from angles you hadn't considered. This exchange of ideas refines your perspective. Knowledge becomes dynamic, expanding with every interaction. Each person you teach becomes a mirror reflecting what you understand and what you've overlooked. Teaching also strengthens discipline. When you commit to sharing knowledge, you take responsibility for its accuracy and clarity. This accountability drives you to study more carefully and think more precisely. You begin to value truth over opinion, evidence over assumption. The awareness that someone else may rely on your explanation motivates you to master the material thoroughly. In this way, teaching builds integrity as well as intellect. It turns knowledge into a duty, a responsibility to communicate well and to continue learning. There are countless ways to practice this habit. You can start by summarizing what you've learned to yourself aloud, as if explaining to someone unfamiliar with the topic. You can write short reflections, journal entries, or blog posts, capturing the essence of your lessons. You can discuss ideas with friends, colleagues, or study partners. You can volunteer to mentor someone who needs guidance in an area you've just explored. The method doesn't matter as much as the consistency. The key is to transform learning into expression daily. When you share knowledge, focus on clarity rather than sophistication. The goal of teaching is not to impress, but to illuminate. The best explanations simplify without diluting meaning. Strive to express complex truths in language anyone can grasp. This discipline of simplification deepens your own understanding because it forces you to strip away unnecessary words and identify the essence of an idea. The clearer you can explain something, the more deeply you understand it. Clarity is both the test and the reward of true learning. Teaching also connects learning to purpose. When you share what you know, you contribute to others' growth. Knowledge becomes more than personal achievement. It becomes service. Each lesson you pass on multiplies its impact, creating ripples that extend beyond your own mind. The act of teaching transforms self-improvement into community improvement. You become part of the continuous chain of learning that has advanced humanity for centuries. This realization gives learning greater meaning. You are no longer just collecting knowledge, you are preserving and expanding it for others. The act of teaching reinforces gratitude. Every concept you explain reminds you of those who taught you, authors, mentors, parents, and experiences that shaped your understanding. Recognizing this lineage fosters humility. It reminds you that knowledge is not owned but borrowed, refined, and passed forward. Gratitude keeps teaching authentic because it comes from appreciation rather than ego. It turns the process into a shared human effort rather than a display of superiority. Teaching also awakens creativity. When you explain something, you often need to find new ways to express it. Stories, analogies, or examples that resonate. This process exercises imagination. You begin to see how ideas connect across disciplines. A scientific principle might find its metaphor in art. A moral lesson might echo through history. Teaching draws from every corner of your mind, weaving logic and creativity together. The more you teach, the more inventive your thinking becomes. Consistency transforms teaching into habit. Make it part of your daily routine to teach something, no matter how small. It could be a simple reflection shared in conversation, a brief note written in your journal, or a message sent to a friend explaining something you learned. The size of the act doesn't matter. What matters is repetition. Over time, teaching daily reinforces learning automatically. Your brain begins to retain information not for passive recall but for expression. You start learning with the intent to share, which sharpens focus and strengthens memory from the start. Teaching also builds confidence. Explaining what you've learned publicly, even in small ways, reinforces your belief in your ability to grow. You begin to trust your understanding and your voice. Confidence born from teaching is different from arrogance. It's grounded in effort and clarity. It's the quiet assurance that comes from having tested your knowledge through action. Each time you teach successfully, you confirm your capacity to learn, adapt, and contribute meaningfully. In many ways, teaching is an act of self-education that never ends. The more you teach, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more you have to teach. This cycle sustains growth indefinitely. It keeps the mind active, the heart engaged, and the spirit humble. Teaching is both mirror and forge. It reflects what you know and strengthens what you are becoming. It ensures that knowledge remains alive, evolving through interaction rather than fading through neglect. To remember what you learn, make teaching part of who you are. Approach each day as a student and a guide simultaneously. Share what you discover, however small, with sincerity. The lessons you teach become etched into memory because they move beyond thought into expression. Over time, this habit turns learning into legacy. The wisdom you pass on shapes not only your own understanding, but also the minds you touch. Through teaching, knowledge becomes timeless. It survives, grows, and multiplies. And in that exchange, you become both teacher and student of life, learning endlessly through the act of giving. Number 9. Schedule growth like daily essential nutrition. Growth is not something that happens by accident. It is the result of deliberate nourishment. Just as the body depends on consistent meals to stay alive, the mind depends on consistent learning and reflection to stay awake. Many people treat personal growth as something to fit in when there's time, but that mindset ensures it rarely happens. The truth is, there is never an ideal moment waiting to appear. Growth must be scheduled with the same seriousness as eating, sleeping, or exercising. When you begin to see your intellectual and emotional development as a daily necessity, not a luxury, your life takes on a rhythm of continuous improvement. Imagine your day as a plate, and your activities as the nutrients you feed yourself. Most people fill that plate with the obligations of work, entertainment, and distraction, leaving little room for true nourishment of the mind. Yet what you consume mentally shapes how you think, feel, and act. If you only feed your mind convenience thoughts, news, gossip, and idle scrolling, you become mentally sluggish. But when you plan growth intentionally, even in small doses, you maintain clarity, focus, and direction. Growth, like nutrition, works through consistency rather than intensity. Scheduling growth means reserving time to challenge yourself. It might be 15 minutes in the morning to read something meaningful, 20 minutes during lunch to reflect, or half an hour before bed to learn a new skill. These moments may seem small, but over weeks and months, they create transformation. The mind thrives on routine nourishment. Just as skipping meals weakens the body, skipping growth weakens purpose. You can't live a strong life with an underfed mind. Every day must contain at least one deliberate act that expands your awareness or strengthens your discipline. This kind of structure brings order to your development. Many people drift through their days reacting to circumstances instead of directing them. They want to grow but rely on motivation rather than systems. Motivation fades, structure sustains. By scheduling time for personal development, you turn good intentions into a reliable pattern. It becomes part of your identity, something as natural as brushing your teeth or eating breakfast. You no longer depend on fleeting inspiration. Growth becomes a built-in part of who you are. The discipline of scheduling growth also trains self-respect. It says to yourself, "My improvement matters enough to deserve a place in my day." Too often, people sacrifice their own development to meet everyone else's demands. They give time freely to tasks and people, but withhold it from their own progress. This neglect leads to stagnation. Growth cannot be an afterthought. It must be a protected space. When you carve out time to feed your mind, you send a message that your potential deserves attention. This habit nurtures self-worth and strengthens focus. Think of the way athletes fuel their bodies for performance. They don't eat only when hungry or when convenient. They follow a disciplined plan to sustain energy and endurance. Growth works the same way. You cannot depend on random bursts of curiosity. You must prepare your environment, plan your intellectual meals, and commit to consistency. Set reminders, block time in your calendar, and treat these moments as appointments with your future self. Each small act of learning accumulates. Over time, these consistent deposits of growth compound into wisdom. The key is balance. Just as nutrition requires variety, growth demands diversity. Feed your mind with different types of input. Books that expand understanding, conversations that stretch perspective, and experiences that test courage. Don't consume only what feels comfortable. Growth, like a balanced diet, requires contrast. Some comfort, some challenge, some experimentation. Too much of one element leads to imbalance. Seek ideas that nourish the intellect, and others that feed the spirit. A healthy mind thrives on both knowledge and reflection. Scheduling growth also demands discernment about what you consume. Not all information nourishes. Much of what we encounter today is mental junk food. Fast, addictive, but empty. Endless opinions, shallow entertainment, and unfiltered noise overload the brain without feeding it. True growth requires quality inputs. Choose what sharpens you rather than what distracts you. Seek material that challenges your assumptions and improves your understanding. When you control what you feed your mind, you control the direction of your life. Every growth session should include both intake and integration. Intake is learning, reading, listening, or observing something new. Integration is reflection, connecting what you've absorbed to what you already know. Many people focus only on intake, consuming constantly without digesting. But real transformation happens in the digestion of ideas. Schedule time not just to learn, but to think about what that learning means. Ask how you can apply it today. Application locks in understanding. Reflection ensures that knowledge becomes wisdom instead of clutter. Your schedule is a mirror of your priorities. If growth does not appear on your calendar, it is not truly a priority. The most successful and fulfilled individuals share one common trait. They allocate time each day for their personal evolution, whether through journaling, study, exercise, or mindful silence. They dedicate time to sharpening their inner tools. This consistency builds momentum. Growth scheduled daily becomes growth sustained effortlessly. You stop searching for time and start living within it intentionally. Scheduling growth also means preparing your environment to support it. Create a physical or digital space free of distractions. Have your reading material, notebooks, or learning tools ready before your scheduled time. This removes friction and signals your mind that this time is sacred. When you enter that space, you step into a mindset of focus. The body follows the rhythm of environment. When your surroundings encourage learning, discipline becomes easier. Over time, your environment becomes a cue for progress, a quiet invitation to nourish your inner world. There will be days when fatigue, chaos, or unexpected events try to steal your time for growth. Those are the days when your schedule matters most. Just as missing a meal weakens energy, skipping your growth time weakens discipline. Even if you can only manage 5 minutes, keep the habit alive. Consistency beats perfection. Small daily acts of learning, sustained through difficulty, build resilience. The discipline of showing up reinforces identity. You become someone who grows no matter what the day brings. This approach also guards you from complacency. When growth is scheduled, it cannot be postponed indefinitely. It remains visible, reminding you that progress is a daily responsibility. Without this structure, it's easy to slip into passive living, reacting instead of directing, consuming instead of creating. Scheduling your growth reclaims control of your time and direction. It is a declaration that your life will be shaped by choice, not chance. Think of your growth time as a sacred ritual. It is the quiet hour when you invest in the person you are becoming. You may start your day with it, setting a tone of focus and purpose, or end your evening with reflection and refinement. The specific hour matters less than the consistency. Ritual creates rhythm, and rhythm builds mastery. When your days carry the pulse of learning, your mind remains awake and agile. You develop not only skills but also awareness, a sense of connection between what you do and who you wish to become. Growth scheduled daily also nurtures patience. It teaches that true transformation unfolds gradually. Just as the body cannot grow strong from a single meal, the mind cannot evolve from sporadic effort. Each day adds a layer of strength invisible in the moment, but undeniable over time. The habit itself becomes the teacher, reminding you that greatness is not achieved in leaps, but in steady steps. Patience becomes power when progress is built into the rhythm of life. There's also an emotional nourishment that comes from scheduled growth. Each day that you honor your commitment, you reinforce trust in yourself. You prove that your goals are not mere wishes, they are actions lived daily. This builds quiet confidence. You begin to see growth not as a struggle, but as a natural part of living. The satisfaction of fulfilling your growth time feeds the spirit just as much as the knowledge feeds the mind. In the long run, this practice shapes identity. You stop being someone who hopes to improve and become someone who is improving. Growth ceases to be an occasional pursuit and becomes a defining characteristic. Like a body shaped by healthy eating, your mind and character reflect the nourishment you give them. You become sharper, calmer, and more aware, not because of occasional effort, but because of daily discipline. Treat growth as your essential nutrition. Protect it with the same seriousness as your meals. Make it non-negotiable. Feed your mind, heart, and spirit every day with intention. The world offers infinite distractions, but you hold the power to decide what truly feeds you. When you schedule growth daily, you declare that your evolution matters. Each moment of learning, reflection, and practice becomes nourishment for your future self. In time, this discipline transforms not only your mind but your entire way of living, steady, deliberate, and full of purpose. Number 10. Challenge comfort zones through constant discovery. Comfort is a silent killer of potential. It disguises itself as peace, stability, and satisfaction, but underneath, it breeds stagnation. Growth begins the moment comfort ends. The world moves forward through those who are willing to step into the unknown, who trade ease for expansion. To challenge your comfort zone is not to seek discomfort for its own sake, but to pursue discovery, to push beyond the familiar boundaries of who you are today. Every new experience, every untested idea, every risk faced with courage widens the horizon of your existence. The more you stretch, the more alive you become. Comfort zones are built from repetition. They form when habits become predictable and challenges fade into routine. At first, they feel safe, but over time, they shrink your world. You start avoiding uncertainty, settling for what feels manageable rather than what feels meaningful. The danger lies in how natural it feels to stay where things are easy. The mind whispers that you're fine, that you've done enough, that tomorrow will be the time to start again. But every day spent avoiding the unknown is a day that weakens your curiosity. Comfort becomes a soft cage, pleasant, but confining. Discovery begins where comfort ends. It starts with saying yes to what scares you, to what makes you hesitate. The hesitation itself is the signal that growth is near. The things you resist most often hold the greatest potential for transformation. Each time you lean into fear instead of retreating, you expand your capacity to handle life. You become stronger not because the challenge gets easier, but because you learn that discomfort is not your enemy. It is your teacher, shaping resilience and humility in equal measure. Challenging your comfort zone doesn't require dramatic leaps. It begins with small, consistent acts of courage. It's reading a book outside your usual interests, having a difficult conversation, speaking up when silence feels safer, or taking on a task you're not sure you can master. These small choices accumulate. Each one stretches the limits of what you believe you can handle. Over time, your comfort zone grows to include more of the world. You stop fearing difficulty because you've trained yourself to face it. The key is to replace fear with curiosity. Fear sees the unknown as a threat. Curiosity sees it as an invitation. When you approach life with curiosity, challenges transform from obstacles into opportunities. Curiosity asks, what can I learn here? Who can I become through this? It turns discomfort into discovery. This shift in perspective frees you from paralysis. Instead of running from uncertainty, you begin to explore it. Each discovery fuels the next, creating a cycle of continuous learning and expansion. The process of stepping beyond comfort reveals truths about yourself that comfort could never show. You discover your patience when things take longer than expected, your creativity when plans fall apart, your endurance when the path feels endless. Every challenge uncovers a layer of your character that would remain hidden if life were always easy. The more you face, the more deeply you understand yourself. Growth is not about adding something new to who you are. It's about uncovering the strength that was already there, waiting to be tested. Living in discovery requires humility. It demands that you admit you don't know everything, that your current perspective is limited. This humility opens the door to learning. When you stop pretending to know, you begin to truly understand. You start listening more, observing more, asking better questions. Discovery thrives in those who are willing to be students of life forever. Comfort tells you that you've arrived, curiosity reminds you that you are still on the journey. The world constantly changes, and comfort makes you resistant to that change. It teaches you to hold on to what was, rather than adapt to what is becoming. But discovery thrives in motion. To grow, you must evolve alongside the world, not cling to the past version of yourself. The people who flourish through life's changes are those who embrace learning as a lifelong discipline. They don't fear reinvention. They welcome it. They understand that every ending carries within it the seed of a new beginning. To live beyond comfort is to accept that uncertainty is permanent. There will never be a time when everything is under control, and that realization is freeing. Once you stop demanding certainty, you start engaging fully with the present. You stop waiting for the right moment and start acting now. Each action, imperfect, uncertain, but sincere, teaches more than endless hesitation ever could. Discovery rewards motion. Every step, however small, opens a door that cannot be opened by thought alone. Discomfort also refines perspective. It humbles the ego and strengthens the soul. When you struggle, you become more compassionate toward others who struggle. You begin to understand that everyone is fighting unseen battles, and this awareness deepens empathy. Discovery, then, is not just external, it's internal. You learn not only about the world but about the quiet depths of your own humanity. Growth through discomfort turns knowledge into wisdom and ambition into maturity. To challenge your comfort zone effectively, build it into your daily rhythm. Don't wait for big moments of courage. Instead, make small discoveries part of everyday life. Take a new route to work. Try a new skill. Ask questions that challenge your assumptions. Read perspectives that conflict with your own. These micro-discoveries train the mind to adapt. Over time, this adaptability becomes instinctive. You stop fearing newness because your brain learns that unfamiliar does not mean unsafe. It means alive. One of the most powerful practices is to seek feedback regularly. Most people avoid feedback because it threatens their sense of comfort. Yet feedback is pure discovery. It reveals blind spots and highlights areas for growth. The moment you open yourself to honest critique, you accelerate learning. You no longer live confined by self-perception. You see yourself as others do. This awareness sharpens understanding and strengthens character. Growth demands honesty, and honesty often arrives disguised as discomfort. Comfort also limits creativity. Innovation is born from the tension between what is known and what could be. When you step into discomfort, you enter a space of possibility. Ideas emerge when the mind is stretched beyond habit. Discovery keeps creativity alive by forcing you to think differently. When you face something unfamiliar, you activate new pathways in the brain. This mental flexibility becomes an asset in every area of life, from problem solving to emotional resilience. Challenging your comfort zone also means embracing failure as a natural companion to growth. Fear of failure keeps many people trapped in mediocrity. But failure, when faced with awareness, is not defeat. It is feedback. Each mistake teaches something about process, timing, or preparation. Those who fear failure learn slowly. Those who accept it evolve rapidly. Discovery is impossible without risk, and risk always carries the chance of falling short. The secret is to fail intelligently, to reflect, adjust, and move forward wiser than before. Growth through discovery is not about recklessness. It's about deliberate stretching. It's about being intentional with discomfort, not reckless with it. You don't need to throw yourself into chaos. You need to lean into challenge with awareness. Push just far enough that you're learning, not breaking. Balance is essential. The goal is sustainable growth, where each challenge prepares you for the next. Over time, this steady stretching turns discomfort into a source of strength. To live in constant discovery is to cultivate wonder. The world becomes larger when you stay curious. You notice beauty in places others overlook. You find meaning in ordinary moments because your eyes are trained to see newness everywhere. Curiosity keeps life fresh. It reminds you that there will always be more to learn, more to experience, more to understand. The more you discover, the less you cling to fear. Because you realize the unknown is not darkness, it's the birthplace of possibility. A life of constant discovery also builds resilience against monotony. Many people feel trapped not by circumstances but by repetition. They stop growing and the days begin to blend into sameness. By continually seeking new experiences and learning from them, you break the pattern of stagnation. Each discovery injects vitality into your existence. You begin to see life not as something to endure, but as something to explore. Discovery transforms existence into adventure. Ultimately, to challenge comfort zones through constant discovery is to choose evolution over ease. It's to live awake, to walk through the world not as a passive observer, but as an active participant in your own unfolding. It means meeting life's uncertainties with curiosity instead of resistance. It means understanding that comfort may offer rest, but discovery offers life. When you commit to discovery, you don't just grow, you expand, you deepen, you become more fully yourself. The comfort zone will always call you back, whispering promises of ease and predictability. But the life you dream of will never exist within its walls. Every step into the unknown, every moment of unease, carries a gift that only those who dare can receive. Discovery is the compass that keeps your spirit alive. Through it, you not only find the world, you find yourself anew, again and again in the ever-expanding space beyond comfort.